You're listening to the Vibrant Happy Women podcast, episode number 75.
As humans, we're always interested in hearing about or in doing ourselves like the grand gesture or the big project or the big adventure. But really, small and steady steps are where the magic happens.
Welcome to the Vibrant Happy Women podcast. Stories of vibrant women living happy lives. And now your host, Jen Riday.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Vibrant Happy Women. I'm Dr. Jen Riday. I hope you're having a fantastic August. It's going fast, and I know school is about to start, and I'm feeling a little anxious about all the shopping I need to do for my 6 kids. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed our episode last week when I spoke with Beth Westy, all about how we as women can eat for our hormones so that we can lose fat more easily. Love that. And today I'll be talking with Ann Bogel, host of the What Should I Read Next podcast and blogger at Modern Mrs Darcy. She is an avid reader and a mom of 4, and she has a really gentle and really nice and fresh approach to life. So I think you're going to love this episode and what Ann has to say. Let's go ahead and jump in. Hey everyone, I'm chatting with Ann Bogel today, and she's the creator of the popular blog Modern Mrs Darcy and the podcast What Should I Read Next? Ann lives in Louisville, Kentucky. Welcome to the show, Ann.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
And we always start off our show with quote. And gosh, how would you even pick a quote when you're so well read like you are? But go ahead and give it a shot, and we'll love it, I'm sure.
This is actually really easy. I wanted to explain how to choose from a million, but I'll stop. I'll just tell you the one. It's Emily Dickinson, I dwell in possibility, a line that I have snagged totally out of context from one of her poems.
Okay, so what does that quote mean for you?
It means excitement and enthusiasm and potential. And it's just something that I really take to heart in my life and my work, that anything is possible and that there are so many things out there that we could go and do and make and create.
Yeah, great. Well, let's dive into a low point in your life and share that journey and anything else that goes along with it.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to a moment, I think about 13 years ago. I was in my mid-20s and my husband and I were meeting with a marriage and family therapist every week. And if anyone ever has the opportunity to do this for almost free like we did, I highly, highly recommend it. And the situation was we had our first child and we figured it out and it was fine. But at the time, he didn't really eat. He didn't really sleep. We had some motor delays and we couldn't figure it out. So we were in our state's early intervention program. And one of the things they offered us, along with physical therapy and occupational therapy, was the opportunity to sit down with this family therapist often. And it was amazing. So we were talking at the time about how I was really frustrated as a person. I felt like I love my baby. I love my family. There are a lot of things I liked about my life, but I felt like the door had closed on a lot of professional opportunities that I wasn't going to be able to do because of where I was. Like now that I was a mother and now that I had these other obligations and now that I wasn't planning on ever going back to school. And I said, I feel like I missed it. And I was really frustrated. There's a lot to be said for talking to other people. A friend probably could have told me this, but our therapist was about 10 years older than me. So relatable, but not like your 85-year-old grandfather saying like, don't despair. It all works out. It worked out for me. And I'd be like, yeah, stop it.
Yeah, right.
But he said, you know what? There is plenty of time. There will be time for that. Like, I understand it feels like that right now, but I was probably 26, 27, but you're 26 years old. You have time. It will be fine. There's time for that. Like kids grow up. I know it doesn't seem like it right now. Life moves on. Everything's a stage. You have plenty of time.
So did you suddenly feel content with your life?
Well, it's not that I felt discontent with my life. It's that I felt that I wouldn't be able to do certain things. And I don't know if that's discontentedness, but it was definitely like resignation. And no, a switch didn't flip immediately. But honestly, I never thought, I was 26. How much did you know when you were 26? Like, I admire a lot of things about my 26-year-old self. But on the other hand, I want to pat her on the head and say, oh, honey, you're going to give it 10 years. So
it's true. And
no, it didn't.
Sometimes as a mom, I look back and think, why was that so hard? That sounds easy now,
This is such a truism, but for a reason, you do the best you can with what you have at the time.
Right.
but I just didn't have a lot of resources then. And it wasn't an instantaneous like, oh, like I'm just going to go skipping into the sunset now. But it definitely was like I just hadn't considered that door wasn't shut forever, or that new doors would open, or that, I just hadn't thought about it. I just assumed like, well, that ship has sailed, too bad.
Right.
So that got me started thinking about like, oh, that's true. Like this is a stage. Everything moves in stages. Nothing lasts forever, for better or worse.
So you had 3 more kids after that. And what stage was that called? And what stage are you in now? Forcing you to put words on it. Crazy, huh?
Yeah. I also thought back then that there was before kids and after kids. And while that is true to some degree, I just didn't realize pre-kids or at age 26 how constantly changing and evolving my life and my family life would be.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't put one name on it. I'd probably put 70 on it, on the various moments in time.
Yeah. Well, so advice to others that are struggling with that same situation.
Well, for some things, yeah. It was too late for me to go into the Air Force, or maybe to become a radiologist, or definitely to like, I don't know, astronaut is so cheesy, but that wasn't happening for me in any scenario, but it definitely wasn't happening at 26. But something I have learned is how important timing is, that it's not just what you hope to do, but also when you're going to be able to do it. And that life moves in stages and things don't stay the same way forever. Sometimes it feels like they hardly stay the same way for like a few weeks, but things constantly change. And that can be scary, but it can also be really freeing.
Well, so take us forward. We know you're a successful blogger and podcaster now. How did that all develop?
That big change happened over a conversation around my dining room table right around New Year's, I think like 2010, 2011, crossing into 2011. And the kids were in bed and my husband and I were having late night glass of wine, takeout sushi at the dining room table. And we were talking about our reflections on the year gone by and our hopes for the year to come. And we were just chatting about various projects. My husband had done a little bit of business blogging in the previous year. And I said, you like that. You seem to be good at it. It was good food for thought. Like, I think you should keep that up. And he's like, I don't know. I think somebody else should start a blog. You know who I think should start a blog? And I was like, nope, I don't even read blogs. Who should start a blog? And he said, like, you would like this. I think you should try it. I was like, you are out of your mind. Like, did you hear me? I don't even read these things. And 15 minutes later, I was like brainstorming categories and thinking of ideas and imagining what we might call it. So it didn't launch for a couple more months, but that was where the idea was born.
So interesting. Well, so you had the blog, and then tell us about it and how it led to the podcast.
So my blog is Modern Mrs Darcy, which was brainstormed shortly thereafter at that same dining room table. And from the beginning, I struggled to define it because I knew I didn't want to do like a niche blog, because back then the blogging wisdom, which I very quickly became knowledgeable about blogs and how to do it and who was blogging and what quote unquote rules were. And you're supposed to blog in a niche, like you should have a food blog or a fashion blog or a lifestyle blog. And I just didn't want to do that. So from the beginning, we haven't really had a niche. We've had a definite demographic. Like I've been writing the kind of stuff that I wanted to read, the kind of things I was talking about with my friends that we'd stay up late talking about, or that we'd linger over coffee discussing, the things that really mattered to us. And, that could be your favorite mascara, because if you find something you love, then you want to tell your girlfriends. But it also could be like navigating the sticky points of your marriage, or figuring out work and life after you just went through the transition that my peers had recently of going from childless to children. Or I had friends who were trying to have children and couldn't. Those are the kinds of things that we were dealing with that we just couldn't get enough good conversation about. So from the beginning, I've been writing for a defined demographic, if not a defined niche. And that's smart, thoughtful, thinking women who like to think big and go deep, who want to talk about the kind of things that you want to talk about with your girlfriends because they're important to you. So
what's your most popular post of all time?
Oh, of all time? Probably one that makes me roll my eyes. The internet is weird. The way it'll take, it's the truest in blogging that the post you labored over for 20 hours will get 14-page views. And the one you wrote in 5 minutes when you were angry or sleepy or whatever will like go around the world because people keep sharing it on Facebook. So I don't know. And it changes from year to year and season to season. Well, currently, there's a post where the slug is unputdownable. So you could read it at modernmrsdarcy.com/unputdownable, all one word. And it's something like 17 books that I read in 24 hours or left because they had really great narrative drive and they just sucked me into the story. And the internet is weird. And for some reason, Facebook keeps showing that post to millions of people. So I know since February when I published that's been very near the top of my list. And for a while, it was getting like 10 times as many views as anything else on my site.
Wow.
But I think that says more about Google and Facebook than it does about what people love. I mean, it's a good post and I wrote it because I thought people would be interested, but it's not 100 times better than everything else on the blog. Right. Even though it probably has 100 times more page views at the moment.
Yeah, right. Tell us about your podcast and what you do on your podcast.
My podcast is called What Should I Read Next? We launched it in January 2016. So we're working our way towards 100 episodes. We're in the 90s now. And in every episode, a guest tells me 3 books they love, 1 book they hate. And some of them, sometimes I even really struggle with the hate word. So 1 book that just wasn't to their taste, if they want to be delicate about it, and what they're reading now. And then I recommend 3 titles they should read next.
That's impressive. Do you just come up with it off the cuff or do you have a little info on before the episode so you can prepare?
I know there are 3 books they love and 1 book they hate in advance, although probably more often than I'll get a curveball or 3. That has definitely happened. But then I never know in advance what I'm going to recommend. It just depends on how our conversation evolves.
Tell us more about something that's exciting you today.
Right now, I'm about to wrap up a couple of big projects. So that feels exciting to be able to check that box and put them in the vault. But also, it's going to free up some more time in my schedule to start the next project. And I love starting things. I love moving on to the next project, which can be a weakness because if you love starting but don't love finishing, you can leave a lot unfinished. So that's something I definitely have to watch out for. But I love starting new projects. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Work projects, home projects?
Oh, I don't have time for home projects. Or how about, I hate it when people say I don't have time. The home projects are not a priority at the moment. And actually we got most of them complete. We just had a podcast live event in my house, which we just moved into earlier this year. So that was incredible motivation to blitz the home project list that probably would have taken us 3 or 4 years otherwise in the first 3 months. So I'm actually feeling pretty good about that right now. But it was work projects I have in mind.
So did you host a book club in your home?
Yes. Another podcast. It's the Popcast with Knox and Jamie. Brought their live show to Louisville where I live. And we teamed up. They had me as a guest on Saturday night. And Friday night, we threw a giant cocktail party for 100 people. So you could buy tickets and you could come meet us and hang out with your favorite or soon to be favorite in real life people that only existed on the internet before. And it was lots of fun.
Oh, that sounds like a blast. So let's talk about something you're struggling with, Anne, but probably you have it all together. So no struggles at all, right?
Yeah, that's what your listeners want to hear. No, I have plenty of struggles. So it's just which one to pick. My current struggle is summer. Like we were talking about ages and stages, summer and its constantly changing rhythms have really thrown me for a loop. I wrote a book about personality. So I'm seeing everything through the lens of personality right now. It'll wear off in a while, but it hasn't yet. And my natural inclination is not to be someone who readily embraces rhythm and routine. But I found that I really, really need it and get so much more done. And I'm really a lot happier and healthier too when I am able to implement a routine and really work that thing. But in the summer, all my routines have been unmoored. And as soon as we land on the beginning of a routine, then kids go to camp for a week, or there's 4 extra baseball games, or we leave for the beach, which are all good things, but they don't make it easy to keep your rhythm. So right now I'm constantly reimagining what my schedule is going to look like week by week, or sometimes even day by day, so that we can all be happy and productive.
So what does that look like? Do you have a new routine each day or kind of a flow that you try to get to throughout the day?
When everyone's activities are constantly changing.
Right.
What it really looks like is just taking deep breaths and going with the flow and planning out each day and looking for what's going to happen when and making just a rough little map. And I am the opposite of type A. So this does not come naturally for me, but it has been a lifesaver. Also to take deep breaths and realize, I think in the past, this might have brought on an existential crisis. Like, oh my gosh, I will never get any work done ever again for the rest of my days. And I've learned, don't despair, just roll with it. Like, don't do nothing, but don't freak out.
Yeah. Let's take a break for our sponsor, and then we'll come back and talk about a few of your favorite things. I once had a group of women fill out a questionnaire about what would make their lives easier, and I was so surprised that the top 3 answers were nanny, housekeeper, and personal chef. Isn't that the truth? Well, head over to care.com and start looking around at the possibilities. What's holding you back from getting help? Maybe it's guilt, thinking you need to do it all. Well, that's absolutely not true, because when you try to do it all, you don't have time left for your loved ones and those relationships that matter. You don't have time left for taking care of yourself. As the Vibrant Happy Women movement suggests, you need to put yourself at the top and take care of you. And sometimes that means asking for help. Now, you might also be thinking, I don't have enough money. Well, when you're stressed, you tend to spend more money on junk food and eating out and all these last minute purchases that you probably don't even need. Many of us, when we're overstressed, engage in shopping therapy, which is a gigantic amount of money. What would happen if you took that same amount of money and started investing in the help you need? Someone to prep your meals, someone to clean your house, maybe someone to watch your dog when you're out of town or to help you pack when you're moving. Whatever it is, head over to care.com, start looking around, and once you find the people that sound appealing, you can sign up for the premium membership and do a background check. Now, care.com is offering us a 30% discount off the premium membership. Just go to care.com/vibrant women to get it. Again, get your 30% discount off a premium care.com membership by going to care.com/vibrant women. Start looking forward to that peace you're going to experience when you have more help, when you have those healthy meals, when you know your toilets are going to be clean every week or two. It feels amazing and you deserve that. So again, head over to care.com/vibrant women to sign up for your premium membership and jump in. Well, let's talk about some of your favorite things. So, a habit that contributes to your success.
Walking the dog with no headphones. Motion and movement and fresh air and space to think.
And a favorite easy meal.
Ooh, Mexican beef verde. Oh, what's it called? It's from Jessica Fisher's cookbook, Not Your Mother's Freezer Meals. It's this Mexican shredded beef we used to make like carnitas. That's not a thing. Carnitas or taco explosion. So the kids like to put it in tortillas, or the grown-ups will eat it with like sauteed spinach, or you can put it over rice. But it's basically a chuck roast that you brown and you put in the crock pot all day. And you serve it with guacamole and pico and shredded cheese and all those Tex-Mex garnishes that I love with a passion. And it's super easy.
That does sound good. And any spices?
Yes. Chili powder and oregano. And then a bottle of salsa verde. And then walk away, do your business. And then when people come over, you shred it and serve it. And it's really a fun, relaxed meal to have for guests. But it's also something we're actually having for family dinner tonight.
And it sounds like you like to entertain. How often do you have guests for a meal or an event at your home?
We try to regularly, like maybe a couple times a month. Although we did go through a season when we moved in and we had kids sports every Friday night and Saturday afternoon, where I don't think anybody walked into our house after 6 p.m. for a month. So we do love to.
How old are your kids?
I have 4 between 7 and 14. 4 of them.
Well, you mentioned, I forgot to ask, you mentioned a book. How many books have you written?
This is my first one.
And what's it called?
Coming out September 19th. It's called Reading People: How Seeing the World Through the Lens of Personality Changes Everything. I've always been a total personality geek. Like, I love taking every quiz on the internet and reading up on Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram and StrengthsFinder. I just love all that stuff because it's really bolstered my self-awareness and helped me be happier and more productive and more strategic about my work and my relationships, like with my husband, with my kids, with my friends. It's something I found really valuable over the years. But in talking to lots of friends and lots of acquaintances, a lot of people say, I just don't understand it. I don't have time to read a 400-page book that sounds like it's written for like a doctor of psychology about how the systems all work. And I just wish there was a shortcut. So in this book, it's my friendly, relatable, homegrown expert approach to walk you through the different personality frameworks that have made a big difference in my life, and giving you enough so you understand how the framework works and you can imagine how to put it to work in your life. And you could stop there, but I also give resources to explore further if you really want to dive deep into like the Enneagram or the love languages or highly sensitive people. So my hope is that in reading it, readers will gain some insight into themselves, into their relationships, into their work, and be able to make positive changes based on that. Because the thing about having like an aha moment that I really think readers will have over and over again reading that is if you can see the world just a little bit differently or see yourself differently, you can make changes that greatly benefit you, that truly change your life almost instantly.
So when does the book come out again?
September 19th. And it's been on Goodreads forever, so you can mark it as to read or something like that. You can request it from your library at that point. And if you do pre-order, my publisher and I have put together some really great bonuses I'm excited about that are absolutely free. Just go to readingpeoplebook.com. It's super simple. It's right there on the webpage, and you get a free audio version of the book. So you get 2 mediums for the price of 1, and you get a free class I made that's called What's Your Reading Personality? That is super fun and genuinely useful in getting more out of your reading life. And those are only available till the book releases on September 19th.
Well, okay. And your favorite kitchen gadget?
Lemon squeezer.
Yes, that's mine too.
I'm glad to hear it. But I do prefer lemon water throughout the day. And I love citrus, anything. So just a little pop of something bright in my dishes. So I use that all the time.
Okay. So Anne, tell us a favorite book that you'd recommend to the Vibrant Happy Women community and why?
Oh, sure. It's so hard to pick just one. But to the Vibrant Happy Women community, I think I'd pick You Learn by Living by Eleanor Roosevelt, which I felt really fortunate to have stumbled upon. It wasn't in print at the time I first read it, maybe 10 years ago. It's back in print now. I imagined Eleanor Roosevelt as this dry, dusty woman of history. And this book was shocking to me how smart and savvy and modern and truly practical it was. And I knew so little about her life then. I think she's gotten a lot of coverage and a couple of biographies, and there's a film coming out and a fiction reimagining of a specific aspect of her life coming out. It's either this fall or next winter. So she has gotten more attention now than she did at the time I first read this, but I knew so little about her life. I knew she was a first lady, but I didn't know about the struggles in her youth or in her marriage or the amazing work she did. She was a pioneer in so many ways. And the book was really practical and inspiring and also really, really fun to read.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, aside from it'll get better, you'll be fine.
Yes.
Don't freak out.
Yes.
I would say, don't underestimate the importance of small steps. I was just reading this article that kind of reframed what I'm thinking of here that said, as humans, we're always interested in hearing about or in doing ourselves the grand gesture or the big project or the big adventure. But really, small and steady steps are where the magic happens. And that's not sexy. And it's not super inspiring. It doesn't set your heart afire or anything. But consistent small steps, whether you're talking about, yoga or relationships or a work project that's important to you, are what makes great things happen.
How do you do it without reading them all?
I do read a lot. Some thought guy, like Seth Godin or somebody like that said, or maybe this is business advice, said that when you're thinking about what to do with your life, you need to think about what your unfair advantage is. What's something that's unique about you that other people don't have. And for some people, it's that they were born into a family that runs a hotel chain or a bookstore or something like that. It could be that you're 7 feet tall or that you're 4'10". For me, it's that for as long as I can remember, I've been reading all the time. So I just have a really long history of reading tons of books. I couldn't start now and know as much as I do about what's published. And still, there are so many books I haven't read and so many books I haven't even heard of. So I just don't think it's possible to read them all. And I'm certain there are people who read a lot more than me. But I do try to stay on top of it, but I've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah. And do you keep up with the New York Times bestsellers? Or do you have other lists that you like to follow?
Whenever I'm in a bookstore and they have it posted on the wall, or whenever I'm traveling and I pick up a USA Today, I'd love to see what's on there. But no, that's not something I track.
How do you decide what to read?
Oh, a whole lot of whim, a little bit of strategy. I definitely believe in reading by mood, and it depends on what I'm working on. So 2 years ago, I was reading piles of personality books. Now I'm reading lots of essay collections. All winter, I was reading the books being published in summer 2017 for the summer reading guide. Currently, I'm reading a bunch of old novels because I'm enjoying it.
Nice.
But there's no formula.
Okay, Anne, we want to hear your personal happiness formula. What would that include?
I'm not much of a formula girl, but I probably should be. A good formula would probably do me well. But something I've been thinking about recently, because I'm about to have a birthday, And a few years ago at church, the pastor just happened to give she closed the service with a benediction on my birthday week. And it's from Thomas Merton. And so this time of year, I always go back and think of it. And when she said it, I thought, oh, that's so amazing. So I went and I asked her and she sent me the text from Thomas Merton. But what she said, it's about being peaceful, happy and light in body and spirit, and being free from anxiety of worry and understanding and love. But the thing I always remember without having to look it up is that a good life is fresh, solid, and free. And that's something I keep coming back to. Going back to Emily Dickinson, I dwell in possibility. There are so many ways to interpret those words on so many different levels. You know, fresh, vibrant, new, solid can mean safe in the moment or like grounded in your core beliefs. And there have to be 1,000 ways to interpret free, right?
Yeah. Okay, so let's end the show with a challenge from you to our listeners.
I would say to take a walk without your earbuds or sit on the porch without a book and just take 5 minutes to think and to be. I think it's one of those things people don't even realize they're missing or that they need until they take the time to deliberately do it.
So we talk a lot about intuition, or I like to. When you're just sitting there thinking, do you get some interesting thoughts ever?
I would hope so. Why do it? Well, although sometimes, I am an introvert who lives in a family of 6 and a very boisterous puppy. So sometimes I just need it to be quiet. So that's not everybody. That's definitely me. So there's that too. Yeah, it's interesting to see what bubbles to the surface. Or sometimes you have to tamp everything down first.
Well, you have shared some great ideas. I can't wait to read your book. And our listeners, you should go out and grab it, get the freebies that go with it. We'll have all those links on the show notes page at jenriday.com/75. And again, the book's called Reading People. How's the rest go, Anne?
How seeing the world through the lens of personality changes everything.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Anne.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Thank you so much for joining us. And be sure to join me next week when I talk with Mary Hyatt about living life fully alive. We all could use that advice, right? We get lost in our smartphones and in our to-do list, and we're not really living in the moment. So you're going to love that episode. I'll see you next time. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Vibrant Happy Women podcast at www.jenriday.com.